The first strikes on the last opposition stronghold, and an area where hundreds of thousands of internally displaced people have taken refuge.
فمن فترة يومين النظام عمل عليه حملة شرسة هو الروس. قصف شديد بالمدفعيات والراجمات والطائرات الروسية.
ما نلحق نضب الأولاد مشرشحين مشردين. ذبحهم التراب والغبرة والعجاج والدنيا.
The only direction that leads away from the regime is towards the Turkish border, which lies not far from Idlib.
So it's going to affect the Turks so much. We are expecting at least 800,000 displaced people.
Turkey's government is still trying to stave off a regime offensive by pushing for a diplomatic solution with the Syrian regime and its allies, Russia and Iran. There are growing concerns a full-blown Syrian regime offensive on Idlib could create a humanitarian bottleneck on the Syrian border with Turkey, set to explode. The Turkish Red Crescent is one of the groups preparing for a new wave of refugees on the Turkish border. We join them on a humanitarian patrol of northern Syria, where camps and infrastructure are being set up. What are we looking at right now?
This is the land, a governmental land on the road of Al-Bab. This land allocated to the Turkish Red Crescent Kızılay by the local government for housing for the returnees.
Karim Kinik, the president of the Turkish Red Crescent, told me that his organization will extend its services to accommodate a surge in internally displaced Syrians.
There are more than 6 million IDPs living in bad conditions, mainly in Idlib, a very concentrated province nowadays. They used to have 150,000 population, nowadays 3.5 million people living there. So wash, water, sanitation, hygiene, shelter, food, nutrition, healthcare, protection, multidimensional services we are providing, but we will extend according to the current situation.
Turkey's government is facing internal pressures over the 3.5 million Syrian refugees already in the country. The country's interior minister has said that Turkey will not be responsible for a wave of migration emanating from Idlib. For refugees living in Turkey, the prospect of bringing them across the border to safety seems out of reach. Mohammed lives in Hatay, just across the border from Idlib. He asked us not to show his face for fear that the regime could retaliate against his family in Syria.
يصير حرب بمدينة إدلب ونحن خايفين عليهم. ونتمناهم يجوا على تركيا ولكن الطريق كثير صعب لهون يعني لا يوصلوا.
He told me that he has seen the regime's brutality firsthand.
نعم، مدينة سراقب بريف إدلب غاز الكلور عدة مرات استعملوا. كان هناك في مستشفيات كان يستعمل على المستشفيات غاز الكلور والكيماوي نظام مجرم.
The Syrian regime and its ally Russia say that they're trying to get rid of terrorists in Idlib. But critics say it's a blanket term used to crush all opposition and stifle agreements designed to establish safe zones.
Al-Ghouta was de-escalation zone. What happened to Al-Ghouta? Dar'a also. Almost the de-escalation zone is in vain. Now we have the last de-escalation area, it's Idlib, and we are noticing now the enforcing and increasing the troops around the Idlib.
Late last year, thousands of Syrian refugees here in Hatay began returning home to Idlib after de-escalation zones were established. But the hope for relative security hasn't lasted long, with the Syrian regime intent on taking back the last remaining province outside its control. Turkey is already overwhelmed with its current refugee population. In Hatay alone, Syrian refugees account for nearly a third of the population. The hope for many on both sides of the border will be that Turkey can negotiate an agreement that could save thousands of lives. Randolph Nogel, the newsmakers on the Turkey-Syria border.